I bet you didn't even think about your fingerprints this morning, did you? But you
Nah.
probably use them, right? I
Mhm.
mean, unlocking your phone, maybe paying for something. They're everywhere, our fingerprints. But, and here's the big question, why do we even have them? I mean, really, what's the point? Let's find out. Today we're going to deep dive into fingerprints, all the sciencey stuff, and maybe solve a few mysteries along the way.
Well, we always thought it was pretty simple, right? Fingerprints, they help us grip stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I guess you could say like grippy socks, but for your hands.
Okay.
More friction, better grip. Same idea as like tire treads, right? All those ridges and grooves, they just grab onto whatever you're touching.
Makes sense. Okay, but like monkeys, right? They've got those ridges too.
Right.
So what makes our fingerprints like so special? Why are ours like totally unique, one of a kind?
Yeah, and that's the really interesting part, isn't it? Every single human being, we've all got completely different fingerprints. Even identical twins, they're not the same. So yeah, grip, sure, that's part of it, but there's got to be more to the story.
So what else is there? Like I read somewhere that fingerprints, they might actually make our sense of touch better. Is that like a real thing?
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. When you touch something, anything, those ridges, they're like tiny little sensors, right? They're picking up every detail, every bump and groove,
Hmm.
way more than if you just had like smooth skin.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But I mean, we can feel things with our arms too, right? And we don't have ridges there.
Right, right. But here's the thing. Researchers, they found out that those fingerprint ridges, they actually like amplify vibrations.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So
Oh.
you touch something, the ridges vibrate, and those vibrations go straight to the nerves in your fingertips. Your brain gets a super clear signal. It's almost like your fingerprints are turning touch into sound, and your brain, it's interpreting those sounds to tell you exactly what you're feeling.
That is so cool. So
Mhm.
have scientists figure out like which theory is right? The grip thing, the touch thing, or maybe like both?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Research is still going strong.
Okay.
A lot of folks think fingerprints, they might actually do both. Evolution was like, hey, two birds, one stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Efficient. So I remember reading that fingerprints, they actually develop super early on, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're talking week 10, inside the womb. Imagine that.
Wow.
This crazy, intricate pattern already forming.
It's wild. It makes you think, like, what else is happening in there, right? I mean, could there be some kind of link between how our fingerprints develop and, like, our other senses developing in the womb?
Now there's a fascinating thought, and it actually leads to a whole other area of research that's really heating up right now. The connection, maybe, between fingerprint patterns and, get this, a person's health, maybe even what they're predisposed to.
Wait, are you serious? Like, our fingerprints could tell us about our health.
That's the idea. Researchers are diving deep, trying to see if certain fingerprint patterns, maybe they show up more often in people who have like specific health conditions.
Okay, this is getting really interesting. So how do they even study fingerprints? I mean, it's got to be some pretty high-tech stuff, right?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. One of the main ways they do it is with a technique called dactyloscopy. Basically, they look at all those little ridges and valleys in your fingerprints, all those loops and whorls and arches, and they analyze the patterns. Yeah, it's like being a fingerprint detective.
Right.
They're looking for those telltale signs, like where a ridge ends abruptly or splits in two, all those tiny details. They build up a unique fingerprint profile.
So cool. It's like art meets science or something. But that dactyloscopy, that's been around for a while, hasn't it? Like, what about all the new technology? Are they doing anything different these days?
Oh, definitely. Things are always moving forward. Now they've got this even cooler technique. It's called friction ridge analysis.
Friction ridge analysis.
Yeah, they're using like super high resolution imaging, and they've got these computer algorithms that map out every single detail. I'm talking like down to the sweat pores.
Seriously. So they're basically seeing, like, the fingerprint's DNA.
Well, not the DNA itself, but yeah, pretty darn close. It's amazing what they can see these days.
It is. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the science here, but fingerprints, they've got a whole history in human culture too, right?
So absolutely. For centuries, people have been fascinated by fingerprints. You see them popping up in art, all sorts of symbolism, even spiritual practices.
Yeah.
Some cultures, they're like a powerful symbol of individuality.
I can see that. It's like each fingerprint is like a tiny little masterpiece.
Yeah.
You know, like nature saying, hey, this is you. There's no one else like you on the whole planet.
Exactly. And then you've got other cultures where they used fingerprints in, like rituals and ceremonies. They represented identity, connection, even destiny.
It's amazing how something so small can have so much meaning.
It is, isn't it? It just
Yeah.
goes to show you, sometimes the most fascinating discoveries, they're right there in front of us.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Grip, touch, identification, even health and culture. It's incredible how much there is to learn about fingerprints.
It really is. And we're still just scratching the surface.
Speaking of which, with all this research going on, are there any, ethical concerns about analyzing fingerprints, especially when it comes to things like health?
That's a really good point. Like with any new technology, there's always potential for misuse. We have to make sure fingerprint analysis is used responsibly, ethically, especially when you're dealing with sensitive information like people's health data.
Absolutely. Privacy is a big deal. We've got to make sure this technology is used to help people, not exploit them.
100%. And that's a conversation we need to keep having as this technology keeps getting better and better.
For sure. Well, this deep dive has definitely changed how I look at my fingerprints. They're way more than just a way to unlock my phone now.
That's what we like to hear. It's all about sparking curiosity.
Definitely. So, with all this research happening, are there still, big mysteries about fingerprints that scientists are trying to solve?
Oh, tons. I mean, one of the biggest ones is, why are our fingerprints so unique in the first place? We know they develop early on, but how exactly does that happen? What's the mechanism behind it?
So, we've come a long way, but there's still a lot to figure out.
Absolutely. And the research is really exciting right now. Some scientists are even looking into whether fingerprints could, predict certain health conditions, maybe even personality traits.
Whoa, seriously. That's wild. Imagine, a fingerprint scan could tell you all sorts of things about your future.
It's mind-blowing, right? There's so much potential in this field. It's incredible.
Okay, so we've talked about a ton of stuff in this deep dive. Grip, touch, identification, even health and potential future applications. It's been fascinating.
It has been, hasn't it?
Before we wrap up, I got to ask, big picture, what do you think the future holds for fingerprints? In this world that's becoming more and more digital every day, will they even still be relevant?
I really do think fingerprints are here to stay. They offer a level of security, a level of individuality that's really hard to beat, even with all the fancy tech we've got.
So even with facial recognition and all that, fingerprints still have their place.
Absolutely. Think about it. They're incredibly hard to forge, they're readily available, and they're, well, uniquely yours. Plus, like we talked about, there's so much potential beyond just identification.
So maybe instead of seeing fingerprints as something old-fashioned,
Yeah.
we should be seeing them as a bridge to the future, a future of personalized medicine, better security, maybe even self-discovery.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to put it.
It really is. Well, I think it's time to wrap up this incredible deep dive into the world of fingerprints. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the thing to remember is we shouldn't underestimate these tiny little things. Our fingerprints,
Yeah.
they're like little clues
So what?
to who we are, where we came from, maybe even where we're going. Who knows what else we might find out about them, right?
Yeah, it's true. There's always more to discover, even about the stuff we see every day. It's kind of like by studying our fingerprints, maybe we're not just unlocking our phones. Maybe we're unlocking a better understanding of ourselves.
Yeah, I like that.
Me too. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into the amazing world of fingerprints.
It's been fun.
It really has. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
My pleasure. And hey, listeners, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and you never know what you might find.